C'est là.
Non.
Recording in progress.
Lo
造化生结束的，这个金白啊，明年八三年白，东年他们是西欧是七白啊，没准备呢，等把西，现在也把了金白。说话写这个真说什么？在这里写着也把这把顺便的订阅的类型的什么？八卦写的是我们说了，历史写照，历史是一个点点线路点点，现在的就一点把线路写着也把三木了这个是的信息，这属于让我准备的给的。当他把家人都地步什么爸爸生日是我们主当在当的没每当他们一旦这是这边经历准备的些送吧都看了这边那我是最重要的都把不了那是我们看着说了差在路那什么了现在大家当个定个的para sam个的不的把工作顺利可以准备多些，多玩就是买玩就是小玩就，然后多小玩，就是给你动了一下子，没对那边给他们这玩，从保住这边送走就，这些店家店的来说。
我心更不忘说，本则不灭我万事这个造句，我本则这个我是这人个有个个为有所人个不人来杀人我罗藏不离。有巴拉这转明年绿道绿波我呀当我呀这永等当乱手中转明年当转明年给到人不接流把三给人的接把马们白罗都光罗人不接诺波人不接自摩人不接兰波人不接朗波人不接众人不接马波人不接天神不言不不给马爱花马路马嘎马梅多马多个马那塞这什么尼玛大瓦人不见多少人那不见为见谁走了当没不说不说那早晚没把地当时间早晚当给把这白天老马当把那当也把多样些是罗山江北江把要素北上北西安的讲究难给人北所学三毛修为些多心刚有完有多些周围顿多些做事些内经给了多是所需不也若人们多让人让人人的根本的三个人。 장게 겨지나 사웨고데네 나가제세 졸라제고라 제나사웨저고 고도즈 예담 고르라나 만달라 감니야도야 예견제레존제도베고 다예니봄메베데베고 제메도제라모다레메 다제영어도베겔레드 잠세겐바게벨레제야 대제자겨바웨도제루 조게니제르소게게냐 벨레라마졸라즈원데 텐데노와제웨도고도 도소니노조웨자레겨 그모드고쇼게가제제 다메저게니마저데조 도제랑게소웨제데예 바여저베데니제베드 제제베웨그녀데더보 파데레베바오저데조 데세저베저여라예와 가제게바다제메베조 데도메다가베저게베 조메마웨다와잠데조 데몰레게제웨 어드베 제와제데라라 예웨 겔도교와밤베제제게 도게제니제보자데조 로멜라마예다가조다 대존다제겨조제베도 다자메달라자베드 메베르제 데라 조유
También te asurdi. Sanje chudun soki chonamla. Ane gyabzuchi dagi chuze kiwe sun 로라 벤제 산제 로바 산제 주도 소지 조놈 전주바도 다는 접수제 다게 주지 로라 벤제 산제 로바 쇼 산제 주도 소지 전주바도 다는 접수제 다게 주지 로라 벤제 산제 로 남게 타도 제게 탐제나 하루는 진짜 사람 준범미엄 제단 도세수 주주인된 탐센들이 시기 동도 토바라바가 시가시 도나던도 대기방아 대시송 다기 진기 대징의 구배 윤다기 진기 대진의 구배 너무 하이게도 노선주시게 두부터도 메이게는 로군지 전음체 삼바와 탐제 다기 주둔도 올라서 때안에 지게도 그 취지 거 버침 네 대외 땐데 이신 놀랄 인든라니에 봤다리 점시 내가 지금 난게 로단다 근데 삼는 지든 저군 뭔가시 차와 신도 또 주니 인즈군도 님볼람박 내주 그 예냠내 대다지 근데 기견 대신 장철로 혹시 제대로 송받다 되는 거는 좋다 가르쇼래 예발가신 년나도 신도 체외 베이 원래야 체제를 하고 매일 개발진 들이시다 완성 예대요리 다른데 무슨 배배 생긴 넘버 쏘다 되는 양무슨 제매네 어디 인터넷 균이 생긴 망고 싶어 저랬던 건 상마 미 지지 미임바 대 나는 그냥 되는 배 가르쇼리 담배 쳐던 저와 선지 좀 된데 땜받은 저와 되는 땜받은 저와 들었더니 라니 너바이바 어떻든데 시다 임바 인자 되는 말한 소 딸이 지금 먼저 배 세코와 통만 매반에 단답봐도 용 많이오지 겨상보지 단답 종으리 아티 쉬빈이나 티 단단나시 사람 망부봐도 된데 중요나 단단한서 내단데 텔을 하스지야 먼저 샘기 내단을 다디 샘기 내단데 텔을 하스지야 지 lep고 해럽지 어리디 티 레메바 인자 된데 망부 마중한테 되게 하고 두기 어리 근데 레테 이네 다른 때는 가르쇼래 문제배 또는 소빠도 매바 사베 토라 때네 때네 tun지 표준 소배 르덴덴디지 만한 상매 예슈어레 예슈바 잠도 마세 대체도 가르쇼래 담배수 양내나게 이 공배 돈도 상만을 여래 이 여바디 야고 싶으시래 이 여바 인자 다디 인자 다디야 디네페 가르쇼래 디린치기 상이치기 나니치기 스파 쇼아타니 망고 싶으시래 지도 근데 zen 다다 니도 최냠는 남주디 사는 개주디 개심부리 당이 개심만 무시해도
So, as Rinpoche is stated, this life this freedom is superior to a wish-granting gem. It is as if you've attained it just this once. It is difficult to achieve, easily destroyed, like a flash of lightning in the sky. Reflecting on this and aware of that all worldly activities are as vain as winnowing chaff, day and night strive to take full advantage of it. I, the yogi, have practiced in this way. You who aspire to liberation do the same. So all of you who are present today, that includes those who I can see through the internet and those who are invisible to me but are listening from all places all over the world, all of you have attained the life referred to in this verse by Je Rinpoche, Je Tsongkhapa, a precious human rebirth with different kinds of freedom and different kinds of good fortune as well. You have attained a human rebirth. You have met the Holy Dharma. You are drawn to it. You aspire to it. You have faith in it. And we could say that although we have been turning in cyclic existence since beginningless time, hardly ever have we had such great good fortune as we do today. And if this we can understand as being the case, because if such the attainment of such lives had been more frequent, then we would surely have progressed further on the path than we have already. We would have improved our minds more than we actually have. This is how we can understand how rare the kind of life we have now has been for us. And if we have one now, it is not by chance. It is due to the accumulation of a large store of excellent merit that in our past lives, it is this that has produced this precious, this priceless life form that we have now, which is endowed with different kinds of freedom and good fortune. You all want to practice the Dharma, which is an excellent thing, but we should be careful not to procrastinate in our practice. We need to not put it off till today, tomorrow, the next day, and so forth, but devote ourselves to our Dharma practice as of now without delay.
दूसरे जैसा छु जैसा दे कार्य संचिक चिकटान ते अंडव चिकतास तो कोमर जब दूसरे असुर तिंडे मारे कार्य संचु जैसी तू मनंचु सिमकी नेदान थे रवा तंदा पातो मनंचु सिमते ता 상마다 텐데 레슈 투그마르디 응다 나타 간다와 레 당보 파스웨기 레 당보 바이나 만주 심기네다 심데 가투 이니 첸디 베 지카르슈레 베니엔데식 사야 통야 도로고야 데니베 베기다 잔두 년경다 텐데란다 타시라시다 유지마르데 이네지 가서 마가서다 텐데다 저래도 텐데게 된 자사자사 펜주다 되니 긴둥기 때 펜주 주로 펜주다 텐데 망고지 어떤 텐데지기 삼로티 텐데지강 단체 동기 어린 안 좋다 소기 레당 오빠 있는다. 남아 상들이 쉬고야 말해. 이니 미 생계 상에 지난주 상단 하고 그러봐. 지난주 쇼가야 라니신 그냥 데린디 미신달 쉬고요. 생계인데 여러봐. 이게 요리 던데미다 망고 요리. 배분 많이 망고 싫어요 요리. 지난주 쉬고요. 지난주 쇼가야 라니 숨더니 상무들 망쳐 드린다네. 가르쳐오래 가르사오래 가르통그렇지. 근데 잡지만도 문에 전에 배 센들링 보면 삼 고르주 시작할 가고래. 근데 시작할 가고요. 티치는 수삼단 미래를 삼단 하고 그래.
No, I said that it's now that we need to practice the Dhamma, as of now, rather. Now, what does that consist of? Is it just reciting various texts or mantras? Is it just sitting, suppose, in meditation? No, it is comes down to doing what is necessary to improve the state of your mind, your mind itself, and I'm not don't want to generalize to all of you, but if like me, you are more like a beginner on the spiritual path, you will, if you take the time to examine what goes on in your mind, objectively speaking, you will see that most of your thoughts evolve around matters of, food, drink, what others think about you, whether you get along with somebody, whether you don't get along with somebody, your partiality regarding, the school of Buddhism you follow, and so forth, your reputation. Again, I cannot generalize, but and I certainly am not really speaking about those, speaking of those who are now in the monastery, but I'm referring to the rest of you who are listening from all over the world, and it's important that you really take a good look at what kind of things you've been thinking about. Say, for example, since you got up this morning, did you not think about what am I going to eat today? What am I going to drink? And so forth. What do others think of me? And this kind of things. And if this is the case, we'll have to admit that that really most of our thoughts are concern matters of this life alone, and therefore are useless.
dépasser ce stade et de ne pas laisser son esprit être accaparé uniquement par des activités de la vie présente.
제비인자 델레타 규주스탄 고요래 규주스탄이 다 가르스나 센디 깡베 체투 삼루탄 삼루조르바 대수 상마 녀송기 준로그레스카는 도가 녀송 아요래 제빈자 디체는 안 주페 다 미스칠링에 송 규투테나 다 디기 미류 토벌 돈다 켜는 중요 말봐 제비인자 이 최들더니 주는더니 봐 삼루들에 다 링스 파다네 센디 짱부 세 퉁퉁퉁도를 봐 센디 퉁퉁디 좀 많이 봐 사람 망보 깨워지마 깨워지마 다 깨왜 타만자 윤이 요말 받아 깨왜 세야지 요말 봐 깨왜 타들이 좀 되니 깨워 링그마를 세야지 요말이 또 이니 콜라 깨왜 타세야디 요래 먼저 지단 깨왜 좀기 타 요말이 인자한테 인자 그래서 상만을 배 삼루 따네 깨워는 철업군도 란단시 심심 빡도 매버다 동의지 날때 동의지 맨날 심심 요 말마다 동의지 맨날 심심 매버 인자 내가 탐제기 동의세네 대화는 거버 미치 제기 제고근도 띵아래 배 제고근도 제기 선배 어떻더니 딘디스 공부시고 해고래.
This is precisely what needs to be changed. We have to realize that if we carry on just having our thoughts turned towards this matters of this life and this life alone, then it is taught that these kinds of thoughts will only serve as causes for rebirth in lower forms. And if we let this carry on and devote ourselves just to matters of this life, then what will have been the point of attaining this very special human rebirth that we have now? So it's crucial, therefore, that we go beyond this, that we extend our concerns to the future beyond this life, which is extremely brief. We need to realize that, of course, this life is not the end of everything, that after this life we have a future life and one after that and one after that and so forth. In fact, there's no end to the future rebirths that await us. Although, of course, there is a possible end to a rebirth in cyclic existence, in samsara. So this is feasible, but not to our future rebirths, our lives. We need to really contemplate this and come to understand that this is true, of course, of us, but of all other sentient beings in cyclic existence as well, who, like us, are subject to the various forms of suffering that samsara entails, and need to feel concerned for their welfare as much as we do our own, and feel so concerned that we feel inspired to do what is necessary to end their suffering and to lead them to a state of happiness. You feel that this is a necessity, that you must do it.
오다토스레 대한테는 다리 가르슈레 좀 소고 탐세 산대 얼바 오늘 미 루튜브 산제게 템바든지 개발도연더니 냐메 조침부터 좀 수익게 붙은가 버침비 가르슈레 차시 차수슈님도 람수슈님도 템바를 붙이든지 대백감들라 드닝 안한수 지기 랑그랑 베기 말루베체니 드니베 가르슈레 텐덴시 지토베 있나 드니베 텐데랑나베 하럽중나네 산제 대마중 이네베 가르슈레 드니 대버침비 팔람톱도바 대마중 이네 잔주 웃음을 못 치주만만 임비시 귤게토바 때 마중 이네 마다 텐데 마중 이네 기부숨 길람지 림베난 똑번네 귤게토바시 제토바 이나 어떻디네 야고시라 용그래 또디야 가수 트라잔 예베티 카르스
Atzules.
나보리 같이 말 온데도 어트레.
So, given that now we have all the very favorable conditions for spiritual practice, meaning not only that we have this human life, we have met the Buddha's teaching, and especially the precious teachings of Je Rinpoche Je Tsongkhapa. And given this, we must be very careful not to, in a sense, to let ourselves down, not to let ourselves be misled by ourselves, and instead practice the Dharma so as to ideally achieve Buddhahood in this life. If we cannot manage that, then the next best would, of course, be to realize the Mahayana path of seeing. In other words, it become a Mahayana Arya. If that is not achieved, then the next best would be to realize spontaneous bodhicitta within ourselves, the aspiration to enlightenment. And if we cannot manage that either, then at the very strict minimum, at the very least, we must be use this life to ensure that we achieve at least one realization of the stages of the path within us.
Il faut que nous fassions en sorte, dans cette vie-ci, d'obtenir une première réalisation parmi les différents états de la voie des trois types de pratiques. Et si nous y prenons de cette manière, en atteignant ces objectifs qui viennent d'être énumérés, eh bien, ça sera bien. Nous aurons donné un sens à notre vie.
Tati langlen ke yondu chidang mushit ka resibi labi ina wada tinibe kibusum yilamgi rimbal peki komgya gyudire ba tosam kombachi gyudire langlen ti nyingbu tsu dubi ta deyan tinibe karshu re duzu tongtong yinza tabe lamri chazanda shutoya semdare kagore jebi yinza sabche chizuname shilung xia zhe, ma xu zhe, ni di zhe xie du su bei nam zhu la zhan, nang yu ben na xin zhe zhe, wo du su xue yin, zhe bin zhan di kiang zhu, da nang zhu le ge zhe dan ru zhen de xin, di gong bo xi ro na.
Now, practically speaking, how we will devote our time. It's we need to progress by first listening to, then reflecting on, and meditating on the stages of the path. Of course, in this short retreat, it will not be possible to uncover the entire stages of the path and the entire Lam Rim. So what I will do is to give you the reading transmission of the outline of the path called the Precious Master's Instructions, and then I will begin to teach from the beginning, based on based on liberation in our hands.
Nous avons exposé dans la libération suprême. La façon dont nous avons
Kunuchu tsarwe. Ta tenyang pe karshu re ngaran zu to pa karchebi ne kunu nambar ta washi kan senkyu ti kechenbu yinba yinza. Tene pe senkyu ti kechenbu yinba yinza. Ta kunu pe chuchu shini shu mogo che ne nge tenju gu milu tobe kabndila. Tari indi mizindila. Zungna sanji kowan rambuchi toba chiyo. Te ma zunga yini pe tepa chimbe tongnam takin shuwa na shiri. Te ma zunga yini pe janju ki sem rambuchi toba zuma mayin bachi gyuli kiwa ta. Te ma zunga yini janju lamki rimbe lamki chik na chikla lamki na chikli chik toba zuma mayin bachi gyuli kiwa chikin yi te che to tini arshu re di sen ni nyamsu linki yi kongkong rabuchi o tendisi kongbo shiro na.
Whatever spiritual activity we undertake, whether it's listening to the Dharma, studying it, reflecting on it, or meditating on, it's absolutely crucial to do so having first developed an adequate motivation, correct, valid state of mind. And I'm not going to explain this in detail now, but just in brief, you are to think, now I have attained a superior human rebirth with freedom and fortune, and I will do my best to use it to work towards and achieve a complete and perfect Buddhahood. Or if I do not manage that, then at least the Mahayana state of an Arya. If not that, then realize the precious spirit of enlightenment at a spontaneous level. Or at the very strict minimum, I will do everything I can to achieve at least the realization of one element of the stages of the path. And this is why I'm here on this retreat, and in which I will devote my efforts to achieving these goals.
les nous allons les mettre en pratique.
Zabin za tangbo, sabzi tizuna meshi longi, longsi pyugi, desenrana.
To start, I will begin to give you the reading transmission of the Precious Master's instructions, the outline of the Lam Rim. So you just need to listen.
Zanju lamji rimbe, mati shua. Tenyu ki tuani nyamdi, zagaw ki sabzi, tizuna meshi longi chawa, shugo so, tizuna ma tama mewa mebe, tuzi simbo tangan tewe shabla, kuwa simbo chasa shi kyabsu chiwa tsawa simbo, tuda nega tamzi tse susung, zanju lamji rimbe chile shi shuyo kongo tsuma tami. Chawa tangwana kuwa kiwe si shuyo ki chawa chawa nyini shibla. Tama kungi lungan tsada tewe sulu tangwala sumshibu. Ten tala yundi nyebe su nyene tenpala chawa tsewe sulu tala. Tsaye suyo tangan pewe tuwanta sulu wa nyeba asam. Kuwa kiwe si re shuyo chawa langa shi tenpala. Sura maru tangwa tu tsewe chawa kiwe kongo tala su. Yesu sembo ranga ta tuye sembo. Sumba chawa nyindi nyi chula nyi shi teta tse. Suyo nyimbe su shi. Mundu teta tsewe. Tangbo langa sumba suyo tewe pewe samba. Suyo tanga suyo mawa la sumdu yi. Nyen suyo nguyo suyo tala nyi. Ge yeno yi kyun su pawa tu nyi tu shi chuo ta mawa nyi. Suyo shebe pewe samba tu ma ta suyo la sumdu yi. Yeba samba ta chuwa chi ta pewe shi. Yu kanga shi. Sumba su. Baka wa so sa tongo. Yeba tamba kungi luma chi ta tewe rinpa la nyi. Nyi tenpe su ta tena lo chi ta tsewe. Tangbo langa nyi tu nyi kong chi ta suyo tu su. Tangbo la sum choro we chuyo kong shi chi ta. Zulu chi ta tsewe rinpa tangbo choro we chuyo tu nyi pa kong shi la shi. Tenpa ta tensu lo we nyi me sanpe tensu chuyo tensu. Tangbo shi nyi tenpe peyo la ke sanji ki kopa la nyawa. Yawa nam kepar kyuwa tu la tenu. Mitsuka yumo tanga nye chuyo tam se lang shu. Sanama nyam to tama tse kongwa pele to. Tam tse to kiwe shi nyi ki me kongwa me su. Nekapa tanga tato ke tuyo tam se me me to chuwa. Ma tenpe nyi me ye ne tele to wa wo tensu lo we. Lama la nye me shu na yawa ku na nye pa lama lo to su ye ne. Kechi me tanga nye pa ke sa chum ne ke wa nye pa. Nye la wara ke wa nga la tengi chuwa me chuwa kyu. Yunde nga rima ki pa nama sato me ki shinga ke se nye pa. Yunde we tsa pa si ma nga su mo ta me pa ki pa sarwa sam cheto. Kewe shingi ki pong pa wo sum pa wa sam pe tensu la. Taba tsa wang ta ka rin se su tine ka pa ki pa wo sum pa la. Lama san ye su ta we we kyu sa ta nu we kyu. Taba shi lama san ye yin pa kya wo to si sang ke shi. Lama san ye yin pa to si sang ke shi pa. Lama san ye tam si ki tile ki che pa po yin pa ta sang. Tam si ki tuen tse pa rangi na wala me pa me pa. Yi pa ka rin se su tine ka pa ki pa la shi. Shu sung we ka rin shi kyu jingi la we ka rin sa koto tu we ka rin wu shi pa. Sum yi pa sa se pa wa kote rin tu se wa ka shi tuwa. Wa wu di min yi me go sama. Me go re ri shi wu shi kyun su ma tu chu. Che su ma tun sa ma su wa che ta wu shi ri kin te yi pa tene lo wa che se rin pa la nyi. Tewe ten la nyi bo le me che tu ku wa tanga nyi bo cha le me su lo tang bo. Su ma tun cha wa samba nyi ka wa samba o nyi pa nyi. Nyi bo che ta le me su la su ma yi wo chu ta tu ma. Yunga tu mo ya lam yi rin pa lo se ki pa su la yi rin pa lo se ta po. Tete se ma tu nyi lo ki pa se te ma te pa. Tenpa la ti tin te rin tu mi ne pa che wo se su te pa che. Lo yi te su samba wo tang po la su ma che wo ma te pi yi pe te pe pe. Wo su tang po la chu che.
Gogo men du. Rimshi, sun ches kun tu do te. Kai men du te chap shi punat. No,
Min tu ta. Ta tu ya min tu.
chap shi punat kan. No.
Diga ne amjo di chiki yor ba ta. Tuje yor ba. Di kun to min tu ting sa te se. Amjo nal ma chun chun tu. Je ta amjo chik min tu yo ma ri ne. Amjo di min tu di shi da ru yo ma je ta ke si.
Lyssna. Lyssna.
Chi bu re. Ta zo ru yu se re hol ma. Ta shi wa ka ba si. 지금은 말해도 두개 남다 미드베님이 두 번은 했는데 지난주 생야지도 개 고도에
가서 콘서트 여러분.
이마로 집에님이 저런 교회신도 지금 이번에 배우는 또 집에 또 집에 봐도 집에 담을게 집에 지금 가신 두신도 집에 숨바 저런 배수원라니 저 고추 선바다 집에 담바고 뭐 너버 저 선바남 생기면 선바 집에 수만도 동물라서 문제다가 오나 게가 또 매봐 달라는 밤에 진짜 밤에 또 여봐 선배스 주세 이번 남생이면 선바로 숨으시면서 보는 거다 괜히 이게 개념하시 수인이면 남생랑가 매봐 루시도 매봐 오 숨바시 세주에 마도 관계 노르니 젤루이기에 경험하면 선바니 받으시지 이때도 선바로 숨으니 와이다 tuntutung 선바오 동불라가 신심생이 와서 니가 동에 선바 자연이 동에 선바니 오니발라 숨을 저공인지 사람게 동에 선바오 선바랑아 질 직사회 동에 내히디 모베 동에 사람 오베 동에 귀신 수베 동에 로원이 봐 다바된 발라니에 담아주고 담아좀 도좀 왔다래 담시 이시게 담아주고 담아가 교가나 되네 교수로 유효가나 세상이 교수선에 제 교수선에 배워 교수 이번 유효가나 교수로 하나니 개병을 소원 발라시 대시고는 교수 개발시 배고는 교수 오늘 교수로 신도 매매고는 교수 시바 배운라게 남부산 예벌 수바도 맡을 수 있는 사벨라기 좀 저는 계속 못하라도 소화면 때문에 좀면서 와서 배트는 담지 잡아녀도 상요 나발 랍자니 예수스 랍자트 몽가 랍자 오당볼 주변에서 이바트 몽가 랍자로 조금 조금 기회대 잡고네 가진 잡고네 제서 지동게 비기 주바시 점도랑 그 파이베 그래서 세네서 접선도 와서 같이 약군절하려게 그래서 소화 가마시게 지시 이바텔에 탐색이 사와는 리시 이케발라 수만을 삼년도 세요술로 동네 이치 삼방와도 수시됐어. 에빌레치 올레메세 바담
샵세스나.
사와 원이와 수수시대 삼발로 숨나고 가르렌데 삼바샬로 좀 일에 이고 뒤다 바오 담보로 숨 나불레는 못다시 양게 기버다는 거 숨바다게 되고 남이 규도다 근데 원이와 가르렌데 가벨라는 못한테 다가고 니 방아스로 숨버렸으나 남이기 윤대 대예질에 대해 규도와대 인기기고 미전 발로로 준수기에서 제신도 세지 배야셨다며
She has read up to the end of the stages of the path shared with beings of lesser motivation.
Donc,
니바지 보고는 또 투명한 게 몰라. 정말니 다바더니 길로 이바다. 내가 보통 몰라니 호세 동에서 무슨 동에서 보통 몰라 중에 니브라에 방암에 베니 방음에 베니 월이야네 안도 돼. 엔토멘도 교회니 바좀에 베니 방오니 바수수 동에서 발라니 근데 동에서 네 롱디 로드 가르쇼레 당한주 긴두마 솔루션 모르지 간주 그래서 지난주에 sabjenti sabit kyurni yobinza kyanzu nyimdo ma lotion tiri.
The best is when you are listening to the transmission. And this I'm referring to those not other than the monastics present, that you should follow the translation of the work, or in Tibetan if you have it, and you know Tibetan. It would be good to follow, therefore, as Master reads the text.
니 방아 타버트 멜럼 지르시다나 아발라니 군종코윤 좀 사바당 타버트 멜럼 지르시다나 하고 Nyumbaji su te le su su chi po ta ni su su lo tambo lo shi nyumong so wa te ye chi de be ju nyumong ni mi su sum ba chi po wa ta ngai su chi wa chi de su shi ne ba tu lo ti ki su ki wo chi ju be ni za ma ju be su lo ni ye ba ma ta ba tu be lo ta na ba la ni te chi de bo shi ge ko do ba lam chi e ki bu de tu mo ya lo ye rin ba lo su su ki sa chi she to se 다 숨바 기부치면은 이런 발로 로종을 숨 대신 이주고 심게 고나라 되면 방 앞에 당하지 심게 비술로 심게는 주발로 로술로 담볼라 가지고 대신 예배세 집에 민의 동안이라서 이는 뭐 주변 신경 줘도 또 소파티 뒤에도 종아지 선발로 가는 바다 벌시면서 사람만님 같은 저 공부도 사람만 타면 제 유로도 또 방안으로 종의 신사를 규로방오 예방을 전수도 심기배 줄라 심종왕원의 심기 쪽에 송도 뭐랑아니 근데 명한 등기권을 로저 다시 임세권을 로 종소로 당 삼방안이 살아서 심기고 뭐요 바오 이바 다시 임세권을 로 종소로 다시 임바랑아 진생기 교육고도 많은 삼바시 주주노고 다시 주요 삼방을 달았다는 동네 공수로 이 방심계 쪽에 손에술라 이 어떤지 슈트리 제만심계 주변 이투디가도 말로기.
So I've read up to this point in the Great Being's Path where it describes the ritual to rely on in order to uphold, maintain one's spirit of enlightenment, bodhicitta, because this is what is covered normally in the final day of the retreat when we have the ceremony for the generation of the spirit of enlightenment, bodhicitta. So I will give the remainder of the transmission that day.
harta dice tata ranzuta shini dunzu ko komja imbe inza ta tele dirba shi sabje jebin samje shi kechimbre tanti chamji karshure ta kunum jun kenan ju kingri dimmo shinda so ini kenan ju di sabje di gyursha inza kenan ju komatu ya yamare 신이 된 주세 도도 수지나 된다 시 신이 된배 배위제 뭐된 바도 된주로베 니미세 이버제 숨바들 삼배 된주 세주 삼루 토는 컨데스 요르스 신이 된 시주 제진장 디르바 시주 그 저zan타 슈고야면도 대신다 견한 적 사바소이나 신이 된 시주 개개인 틀 대백께지 말해 개개인 틀 대백께지 말해 개개인 삼루땅다 삼루 토는 개개인 컨데스타고리 조행은 개개인 봐 컨데스 슈고리 어디 디리 신이 된 세야데 제만도 따다 다가스 개개인 틀대 골로시다체 니베 삼삼루 도자 자도 시에다한테 나게 된데 그때는 들신이 된 쓰기요 말해 제비스티다 저선나 무슨 슈고야메 사바술 시에기다 사바술 키는 주티 고쳐버지 우리 고쳐버지 신이 된 쓰기 삼류 토네 라나 라마노 어떤베 그 신이 될 삼류 토네 삼컨데스탄 우리 더 삼류 토네 삼땅한 나시 조올라는 갑라 컨데스 슈고리 오다 드니베 오티스 신이 된 쓰야데 오다 든데르지 고 든데스 삼땅 우리 사바서.
So I am referring to the outline of the Lam Rim called the Precious Master's Instructions, and in it you will see that there are 4 major topics to contemplate on when meditating on the reliance of spiritual master. You have the outline in translation, and as there were always important to refer to it. So first of all, what does it mean actually? So first of all, what are the 4 points, topics of meditation? They are to reflect on the benefits of relying on spiritual masters. Then you reflect on the disadvantages of not relying on them, or of a breach of reliance. Then there's the way to rely on them in thought and the way to rely on them in deed. Now, what exactly does it mean to rely on a spiritual master, to follow a spiritual master? Does that mean you have to live with a teacher? Do you have to actually stay with your teacher or their teachers? No, it's not a question of that. It is a question of how you consider the teacher, how you think of your spiritual master. And also how to behave in relation to your spiritual teachers. It's because if you live close to the spiritual master and therefore spend time with the teacher, but at the same time you do nothing to control your thoughts in relation to him or her. If you let yourself get angry, feel jealous and so forth, well then, even though you're staying near the teacher or with the teacher, then you are doing nothing that could qualify as being correct reliance on your spiritual teacher. So really, relying on the spiritual master is a question of attitude towards your spiritual master, how you see your teachers, how you regard them, the different states of mind you can have in relation to them. And also on the one hand, and then there's the kind of behavior or conduct that you engage in relation to those teachers based on your feelings for them.
Et c'est pour ça que la manière de suivre on vit, c'est de quelle façon appliquer sur le terrain du comportement, des activités que l'on fait, les instructions que l'on aura reçues du maître. Donc il est extrêmement important, notamment pour les personnes pas de commission d'état et les plus nouveaux. Il faut vraiment arriver à bien comprendre qu'il n'y ait pas d'erreur d'interprétation de malentendu à propos de ce que l'on appelle suivre le maître en pensée, suivre le maître en conduite.
제빈다 신이 댄스도야 사바츠레 라잔트바 슈과민도 사바츠 키난주 생나 라멘 틸베 데테브제니 디사절만순 디심데 사절만순 디심데 내 미신다 용도는 파 차도제 야 삼상 어떻든지 대비는 신이 땡기 어마레 신이 땡기 어마레 균 땡기 어마레 이 말에 디 사세 수직 사세 심야 수르제 소수데 사세르데 다고자 미신 기도바 용도베 베 킬마순 베 워스 베 소캡초스제 소캡초스제 고데이나 디 큐니 신이 땡기 어마레 신이 땡기 큐는 고츠비 어마레 디 말에 자원이니 말에데 향수 사버스르다 아민가시 뜬데 삼당게 용구를 받던데 용구도 받든사 등산 캐서부터인데 용도 또 미사하부터인데 근제 그런주 시리 많이 받던데다 투데베 유튜브 고서럽지 삼단에 라멘 틸데 고서가려 고서가까이 요만데 엔다 셰프지 슈직 지야지만도 될 고스토야 요만데 이니베 딜베베 탐데제 이바 말레베세 틸서도바 틸도바 용게 뚫파 길마순 채웠던 바소 겹초초베 좀초초제 때문에 싫어 용도가 참 신이 된 주세요 된데 말이다 어디 야고 시험을 제고 우리 생분한 샤제 신이 된 수주들 란람마노 어떤 베기 신이들 삼르모는 가파 간데 삼땅고래 삼땅은 나시 조라랭 톤 간데 스토리 디르와다 디 시다게 침부리.
Now, of course, I'm addressing those who are relatively new to this spiritual path and in other words, were not born into this kind of culture, and not therefore those who are now in the monastery listening today. So those for those who are in this way sort of relatively new to the Dharma, you have to get this straight. It's very important not to imagine that relying on spiritual teacher consists of staying close to your one, and at the same time sort of guarding your position in relation to the spiritual master, seeing the teacher as almost like a possession that you own and that others cannot have, and therefore when others do approach the teacher feeling jealous and almost like chasing away others, like a dog who barks to protect his property and his position and so on. If this is sort of thing that does occur. There's who are very possessive about their spiritual teachers and who imagine that is behaving this way is relying on the spiritual master correctly, which of course is just the contrary. If you behave in such a way, you are not in any way relying correctly on the spiritual masters. So this is something that happens, and it happens to those who are newer to the Dharma. So it's not a question of being physically close to the teachers, and if you are, then it's not some kind of position or status that you attain that you must protect with your life and chasing away anyone who wants to you feel might take your place. No, that's not what relying on a spiritual master consists of. It's really quite the opposite. It's completely a question of attitude, of view, how you see the spiritual master, and then based on certain views of the spiritual master, how you then behave. I insist on this because it is something that often a misunderstanding that exists among those who are relatively new to the Dharma, and we must be sure to understand that this is nothing to do with relying upon the spiritual master.
Vu l'époque dans laquelle nous nous trouvons, il y a parfois des choses un peu étranges. Certains peuvent avoir des idées étonnantes, un peu farfelues. Donc c'est pour ça qu'il vaut mieux essayer dès le départ de bien cerner les notions. Donc il faut bien s'entendre sur ce en quoi consiste la manière de suivre. Même il faut le comprendre, il faut le retenir. Et donc en fait, c'est vis-à-vis de notre personne qui s'expose à la dénuée d'erreur. Et la manière de se compenser, c'est de quelle façon faut-il le considérer, faut-il penser à lui, et lorsqu'il a la manière correcte de suivre en conduite, de quelle façon désormais faut-il se comporter, de quelle manière faut-il agir.
Tene 당구 tene tene 배운 가르요르스 배운 가르요르스는 캡산 가르요르스 여러분들 개신이 출신도 되는 거는 좀 편도 가르용 그래서 마데니 경 가르 그래서 세제티 상당히 있는 띵이 야구준 고처베 있는 tene 신이 된 줄바 조슈게 그래 조케는 오다 인지 미지 된 거도 삼선으로 그래 근데 맞아비 있는 tene 다가스베 다가스지 룩수 소리 제비 있는 가이 교마리 이 개침버리.
So actually the first point to meditate on when developing correct reliance upon the spiritual masters is to meditate on the benefits of relying correctly on your spiritual teachers. In other words, what the good will come of it, the advantages of it. And the second point is to then think about the disadvantages of not relying on spiritual teachers or of a breach of reliances. And it's important to first contemplate the different benefits, to develop a really feeling of a delight and enthusiasm about following a spiritual teachers. Otherwise, you can end up doing it, but just as if it is a kind of a tradition, a custom that you want to follow, without any real understanding or delight in what you're doing.
또 지리 신인 된수 배우는 배 탐내버지 요래 또 동북급변도 솔배 니kel 하스직 망부 소요래 뒤딴디 뭐는 줄래 땅부파 솔비기 염술 렌데 위치도 개 섭지 개 손샤요 봐 섭지 개 요래 둔세 개 난수 둔
In fact, the benefits of relying correctly on spiritual masters are unlimited. They are huge. And in fact, for example, in the Gandavya Sutra, there are listed more than 200 benefits of relying upon spiritual masters. But this is a bit much for beginners. So to facilitate the reflection on it, the past masters have created a list of 8 benefits, 8 prime benefits of relying on our spiritual teachers.
따디엔 가르스는 산지 고만은 녀와 드니 겨원은 개버 주와 주든 뒤쪽이 미수바 유모는 니주 탐제 랑슈 긴각바 산음 냠도 탐제 공벨도 주와 서로 탐제도 개위 신이기 미풍바 민송도 미동와 내가 탑도 그땐 누가 오세 왔다 디긴식세 디긴디 칼레칼리마수.
So what are the 8 that we find in our outline? The first is that the benefit of coming closer to achieving Buddhahood. The second benefit is that by correctly relying on our teachers, we in fact please all conquerors, all Buddhas. The third benefit is that you become invulnerable to the harm that bad spirits or misleading friends might wish to inflict upon you. The fourth is that you automatically see your kleshas, your disturbing mental states, lessen, and also your bad behavior lessens. The fifth is that all your realizations, in other words, of the grounds, the paths, and other realizations increase. They develop in you. The sixth is that you will never be deprived of spiritual teachers in all your future lives. The seventh is that you avoid falling into a lower rebirth. And the eighth is that you effortlessly are able to achieve all temporary and ultimate goals.
오다 두세 리송아 다디 임비 인상 다디 당다 켜는 오다 두스리 제산배는 산 개위신이 만템베 이나 산제 고만은 냐요 말바다 먼저 산제 고만 돈도 nye 되는 지르바 그래 대진기지 제비 인상 대부침부 더 진당 대부침부 진당래 다디 대중의 이미지도 남주민 키란디제 키람디 마르스 랍토고 마레 소수규를 전주 심점만 임지 위에 대버진 봉외래 소수규를 전주 심네 텔레토니기 로케니 텔레펜 더버버체니 베 멘상제 고만 톱고도 삼 쮸니 상당히 두수도 진단서 요리들라 제비 더 딩이 가론지 신로서요 봐 이 가론즈메 안돈도스요 말에 제산다 먼저 돈도니야 또 산게 고만 인고한테 가르스나 먼저 택받침비 릭진 임바 인자 택받침비 릭진 돈다 또 가르스나 심지 탐지 동에도 될 때월 거야 들봐 동에도 되니 때월은 거야 들 산게 고만 마톱나 양다고식 수직 제도야 말에 수직 자준법에 시락배 도보든데 이네 pen 잔주선 사주바 와이네 상기준데 자반낭시 지토요 말에 제비 내 까다레 상기 고한테 내 까다레 디 임바 인자 디닝배 가르쇼리 디 톱제가 탑들더니 가르쇼리 계위신 samsung ko konen temba yina deta be kovan de langaria yabe tanyer rores du sungu yorba otusre.
As we've seen, the first benefit of relying correctly on your spiritual masters is that you come closer to achieving a Buddhahood. Now, what does this mean? This is absolutely evidently our goal. The achievement of Buddhahood is our aspiration. We have Mahayana tendencies. We are either a Mahayanist or we are a follower of the Mahayanas. There's only two options. Being a Mahayanist is something that only you can determine whether is true or not. No one can tell you that it is the case. Being a Mahayanist means qualifying as a Mahayanist means that you have realized spontaneous bodhicitta within you. And for those who have not yet realized that, you are not a Mahayanist. You may, however, be a follower of the Mahayana. You aspire to the teachings of the Mahayana. You are drawn to them. You are drawn to or intend to achieve Buddhahood. Why achieve Buddhahood? Well, because in fact our real goal is to put an end to all sentient beings' suffering and to lead them all to a state of complete and perfect happiness. And achieving the Buddhahood is the only solution to be able to go through with that aspiration. Only a Buddha has the full capacity to completely and perfectly work for the welfare of all sentient beings, no matter how extraordinary and marvelous an arhat one may be. Still, one lacks that, until achieving Buddhahood, lacks the full capacity to work for the welfare of all sentient beings. Even a bodhisattva of the 10th ground, who just on the verge of achieving Buddha, has not yet the full ability to work for the welfare of sentient beings as a Buddha has. And therefore, the only option, the indispensable means to achieve our goals for the sake of all living beings is that we should become a Buddha. And that is therefore our goal. And therefore, the following our spiritual master is the means to achieving that goal. You are able, and by doing so correctly, you come closer to achieving that goal. And
Autrement dit, pour pouvoir pleinement accomplir le bien et les êtres, eh bien, la seule solution, la seule méthode, c'est de faire le nécessaire pour soi-même au plus vite devenir Bouddha. Il n'y a pas d'alternative.
Tine 신이 된 수치신 주제나 산지 고반은 예단 가르시도 tine 산지 고반 투식이 탑데 라멘 신지만 로버때 땡기 얼바다 런 람마노 템베기 신이 되게 신이 배 산지 고반 투식이 탑 신지만 로버 템베 직제 템바 점도 마세 랑기 냠술랑아 이나 레타 티코레 라멘 신지만 로버 템베 이네 랑기 냠술랑아 이나 또바 줄케가 말바던데 제가 라멘 신지만 로버 템바데 랑기 냠술랑아 이나 tini tab tela teni sanje koban nye nyerundro ya gyuzinchik teri.
So, as we've seen, the first benefit of relying correctly on the spiritual masters is that we come closer to achieving Buddhahood. How does that work? First of all, if you follow a spiritual master and correctly, you will benefit from the teachings that the teacher gives you. The teacher will explain the valid method, the correct method to achieve enlightenment. And if you put the explanations that the teacher gives you into practice, well, then naturally you will achieve realizations, you will progress along the path and ultimately achieve Buddhahood. Of course, if you just listen to the teachings and do nothing with them, it's a different matter. Then there's no, in that case, there will not be the kind of result that is explained here.
Nous indique quelle est la méthode à suivre. De notre côté, nous faisons de notre mieux pour mettre en œuvre, pour appliquer ce, de toute évidence, cela ne peut que nous rapprocher du but recherché, c'est-à-dire de l'état Bouddha.
Disons, 초진들이 대점도 마세 니 계위신인 배 최진년 고유 고니까 상계 고반은 예룬 로요리 어떻게 심바리
This is one way relying correctly on spiritual masters brings you closer to Buddhahood. There's another aspect of correct reliance on the masters. If you rely on the teacher and make honor the teacher and make offerings and serve the teacher and so forth, this also allows you to get closer to reaching Buddhahood.
디 교전 가르스 슈비나 디 교전 가르스 슈비나 드니 상계 고만 베게 베 상계 고만 균교세 윤데 군데 지르바 딘데 고만데 토버 제발라 소박도 매바 사나만도 소박도 매바사 디지박도 매바 장나만도 고만데 톱토그 마리 딘데 소박도 매바사야 이집박도 매바 자야가 탑딜라 이니 랑게 랑라마노 같은 배 계위신이디 상계 탐색이 오르면 메는 되니페 메베이나 딜라하고 탑춘 매버리.
So how does that work? Well, first of all, you need to understand that Buddhahood is a state of perfection, and a state in which all imperfections, all limitations have been overcome, discarded, and so forth. And all good qualities have been perfected, realized to a degree of ultimate perfection. And to achieve such an extraordinary state, one needs to generate within us a huge store of merit, or if you like, good karma, and also purify yourself of vast imperfections that you have, faults and imperfections. And so the means to achieve those two kinds of collections of merit and wisdom, and also to purify yourself, really an excellent method is to develop the view of a pure view of your spiritual teachers as a being of the nature of the Buddha himself, and in relation to them, serve them, honor them, make them offerings, and so forth. This, given our view of the master is pure, is that same way we view Buddha. The relationship will allow you to produce the two results looking for: a collection of merit and wisdom, and also great purification.
인지미지게 계유신이 땡고 말은 베스다이나 하고 그래서 삼당인데 용식을 받는데 말이 베스 고기 된다 상 고기도 진짜 삼당의 용식을 했대 딘지기 매버리 딜레베 베스다이네 식된다 신베이네 이좀 곰베 규베 진압기 규베든 조금만 봐. 진압기 규베 요만들라. 매베 인자 람 마노 템바 스툴 코란테 나가 간 페뇽에 간사치기 템바 이나 오다 딜렛페 대질은 암수 치는 때는 요만 봐. 어떤데 임바리.
Now, there's some people who imagine that there's no need for them to rely on spiritual masters. They think, well, I don't need teachers. I can read the text, I can read the books, the sutras, and so forth, and I have a fair amount of good knowledge of the Dharma, and I can understand what I'm reading perfectly well. But this, of course, is a mistake, and it's reading Dharma text is not sufficient to allow you to progress spiritually, because just reading books does not the books themselves do not in a sense carry the blessings that the spiritual master who has received teachings themselves and can pass them on has the spiritual teachers have received the transmissions and blessings that go with them and can pass these on, and books cannot. That's why it's necessary really to realize to rely upon a spiritual teacher who carries these blessings and who is having received them themselves and so forth.
근데 인자 딱히 가르쳐래. 딱히 토를 공중주를 받아. 공중주를 했다던데 가르쳐래. 중립을 찾고 봐.
De tendementet måske dilemmas navnet det gjør det. Tuni det charity gjør det.
지루해.
Tiør det ene rumshi tutur det.
중이 제가 주변 로도도 중이도
Da tutur det rumshi sigisina.
주주도 릭샤.
Kumanyana.
온다 도세. 근데 딱히 간데 삼당 우리 시주 딱 공자단 간데 겨우 시주다. 군배나 맞추 상미 킹김시다리. 다 사바든데 여러와. 사바든데 단 딱히 당분은 남바 많이 맞추 간데 공부를 시주 지난 주단다 공자 두주들레도 디치오레. 랑게 배 가르슈기를 가르슈르는 눈도 라는 춘정문도 계위신이 가주 윤이 되긴디 반항가 텔 배 가르슈르 반항가 간배 유유삼으로제 유유삼제 따디 남주낭시 삼당으로 티배야 라차고르부터 직직고르부터 삼당교 말에 남주 코랑 쇼단 컨디션나 소다 컨디션나 남사 컨디션나 남주낭시 남주 제바낭시 삼당 따디 주는 대수배 가르슈리 öser nanga reji ösek nanga reji tsela lama reji shuyu samdaya dendi yori ti tantun tigri ti tama thubi yini dendi se shuyu samdang oda tini pe samdane tingidile yagu samdane namkyu karshuri desi yuni kamyuna da kandesi yuni namkyu nangshin se shuyu samda reji samda tusi urta ti chebala 당복 라나 춘대묘도 기게 가수 예매 장가도 신고르거든 장가 신고르거든 근데 안주 미실 케스 트비니처럼 춘대묘도 기게 신이 가수요 스티나 남산 랭게 가보지 그래 것이 미 남주 냠내 나가서도 손수서 여러바다 냠내만은 이네 신이 직직 당부지 니바 직직 근데 이는 저기 오마래. 근데 저기 오마래. 또 딜렌도 남주 손셰기 주르는 딜렌도 남주 그런 배스 바구나는 가서 요슬라비나 남산 셰스서 요르스. 근데 숨고요. 가서 있는데 그 랍스서 요르스. 달라메 장가 자고도 신이 장가 장당에 당부지 그날 배 기주 줍세 라만들이 되는 가가라면 Tenen pesa lam ta tende chen bugul tang jang dun tit yun tri yo mar tende chi yo mar so so chen jang tu ge shin ka tse yene ti sholo ka chi chu sholo ka chi nyam ba yin je ge shin ka bin tin kyun de sem tenen chung nin dar sam tang ore ti su tang ga ti sam tang sem kom ni yang kom ni tin dun gin nang gal kom ni tenen pe so tab tun de se vi na o ta ti gyul tenen ge shin yin te su chin jong ro re chin jong ne tenen pe kar sho re tenen si yung ri che da ta tan de kiran zu kom gen du de ba ta kom gen du ta gi shu na shi chen ge shin yin de kin dun du sa san sa bu kom sa sa bu kom ta te yan ti son re ga shi chi that's
So the idea is that we are to meditate on our spiritual masters, and how are you to go about this? Of course, the people in the monastery, the monks in the monastery, know how to go about this, and but for those new to the Dharma who were not originally Buddhist but have become so, then you need to have this explained to you. So the idea is that you to visualize your spiritual teachers in front of you, and you need to see them as they appear to you in daily life, with their way they speak, the way they dress, the way they sit, and so forth. And there's no need to do anything to improve their physical appearance, the way they appear to them, the way they appear. The idea would be that you should imagine that light beams are emitted from the Buddha on top of your head and in space in front of you, and each of the light beams being made of five light rays of the 5 different colors, and you could see them seated on the tips of these, but otherwise you can just see them before you in space. And again, you must take the time to imagine how they are physically, how they sit, how they wear their clothes, but also how they speak, and so forth. But of course, to be able to do this, first of all, you need to know how many spiritual teachers you have. Now, if someone would come along to right now and say, well, how many spiritual teachers do you have? I'm not sure that all of you would be able to answer that question immediately. You might have to stop and think about it. Whereas, as the saying goes, if someone were instead to ask you how much money you had in your wallet right now, you'll be able to answer that question very easily without any hesitation. But for the rest of you, maybe you might have to stop and think, well, first of all, there's a teacher from whom I took vows, for example, shamanera vows, monastic vows, and then there's the teacher who taught me the alphabet, and then there's a teacher who explains the different spiritual texts of Buddhist philosophy to me, and so forth. You have to sit down and therefore count them. But that, of course, is not ideal. The teachers are, of course, in question of those from whom you have received the Dharma, be it just a single stanza of it, and the best way to be able to easily answer that question, have them easily present in your mind, is to count them every day, to in fact meditate them every day, and address your requests or supplications to them every day, and thereby receive their blessings. And this way, they will become more and more familiar to you, and your visualization will be largely facilitated. So the idea, therefore, anyways, is to work on this until you're able to manage to see all your spiritual teachers in space before you clearly as they appear to you in everyday life.
Oui, de les invoquer, de leur présenter des requêtes. Et ça nous permettra, si nous nous ordonnons de cette manière, de recevoir leur bénédiction. Et donc, dans nos préparés, c'est pour cela qu'il importe que d'abord nous sachions combien nous allons mettre, et puis ensuite que nous, pour méditer, nous les représentions tous très clairement, en tout cas aussi clairement possible, devant nous. Il faut bien penser qu'ils sont devant nous tous.
지난주 공중 그러봐 공중도 군웅도 뒤스 군웅도 뒤스 군웅도 뒤스 살이 쉬고들 때니 오다더니 배 다른 쉬는 날씨 춘정도 기계위신이 이게 남바뜨긴데 배 남준날씨 쟤네 배 세부 심 샤르춘이 심 샤르춘 때니 또 저기 남이인데 지문다 그걸 속인데 이거 온도 만당은 쟤네 동기 맨 삼바르제 당분 또 삼당되니 또 심샤르주다 또 심샤르주도 준비도 계획이 넘버도 그 넘버도 심샤르용도 심기부시라요래 심르베 아르슈르다 나 코등에 송기 지불이 경우에 뭐에 뜻한데긴데 이 상황에 들어왔다데 무슨 잡은데 잡으면 땡게 있던 디긴 들어봐. 디긴 들으면 또 산지 좀 되게 무슨 소리든 난 두고요 말봐. 완전 제요 말봐. 당한주 무슨 벤제니까 간염 라냠 미남바친 미든 미체니까 두세 니르지 오르다 니르지 교요 말다. 니체는 송군 로르다 니체는 배 다른 담지 김배 군 로르스 무슨 칼로난 게디 어떤 디긴디 이삼 또 samdan simpe kachupak me bikegre sim kachupak me bikegre kituta to samdan inde seba chasuna kachupak me bikesun kesunda ti patun 조금 소르지레 말말 조금 소르지레 또 간 심샤네 간베 심파시 또 조금 디마 세세 심치식도 냠브라샤네야 도세 곰네 도스 곰제 슈네 조금제 던 조금제도 조금지도 당부 셈디 슉심 버르지 여러바당 나 지기스 심슈 예베 소르 저러바 또디 예베 렌텔 디데어레 또디 칼리 제니야 칼리 심슈르마 아 친제 추잡을만 손 땅부 차부윤에 이 림기마 장무 찬로 그러봐 근데 차 용도 야 꺄도 제공제네 다긴 교수님들은 꺄도 제네 계위신인데 게 나르베 지게 다바 탐지 김별 남든지 나샤 다티 다바 탐지 김별 남스니 근데 가고지 먹어진 빼나 최근에 된 든지 손샤 디트레다 다르도나 너 코드 내송고 동일이 되체도 최근에 된 든지 라브 난종 계위신이 되게 든지 라브 난종선 양상단다 제공수로 든지 비나 어디야스 땡기피기 슈르드 체르로 봐 심슈르 체르시 그냥 대강 샤 심디 잉만 주 어떤 든지 공부 시규래 든지 따디니 따도 생각다 디지규는 게
So when we will meditate later today on this, how are we to go about it? First of all, that we need to take a few minutes just briefly to generate your motivation, your good motivation, and then you are to visualize the spiritual teachers from whom you have received the Dharma in space before you, and you are also to generate the be determined in your sessions not to let your mind wander, but to remain focused on what you're doing. And when you manage to see your spiritual teachers in space before you, this will prompt a great feeling of should prompt a great feeling of delight, of joy within you. Why? Because you will think these are the ones who protect me from falling in the lower realms and from samsara. You will be aware of the fact that that you have not been able to meet the Buddha, for example, the Buddha Shakyamuni directly, and it is in fact your spiritual teachers who fulfill the role of the Buddha, in the sense that their spiritual masters show you what to do, what not to do, in order to ultimately free yourself from cyclic existence. And when you think about this, of course, just seeing your teachers before you, that will fill you with joy. This kind of reflection is qualified as an analytical meditation. You're thinking about different things, and at some point, though, you need to stop your analysis and just focus on your spiritual masters, on your feeling you have towards them as strongly and clearly as you can. But that's what we call a focused meditation or a concentrative meditation, and with free of any analysis. At the beginning of it, the feeling you have will be quite strong, but just as hot water eventually cools, so will your feeling towards the masters slowly fade, and in which case you need to go back to your analytical meditation to remind yourself that these masters before you are the ones who have taught you the path to liberation, or to simplify as we can see, they're the ones who ultimately provide you perfection from cyclic existence, by teaching you what leads you to suffer, and what behavior and thoughts will free you from suffering, will prevent you from suffering, and lead you closer to a state of complete freedom from of all misery, that is samsara. So you need therefore to remind yourself of the different explanations that you received from the teachings have contributed to this, and once again then bring your state of mind back to its first strong level, and then stop your analysis and then concentrate on this once again. This is basically how you are to proceed in your meditation sessions today.
Eh bien, c'est bien de repenser à chacun de nos maîtres en nous remémorant tout ce que, plus particulièrement, ce maître nous a appris. Et de quelle façon ce maître nous a donné des indications pour nous mettre à l'abri, par exemple, des états infortunés. De quelle façon dispenser chacun de nos maîtres, et donc ça va redonner de l'impulsion à notre méditation, et à nouveau quand notre force mentale sera devenue suffisamment forte, quand notre visualisation sera assez claire, nous pouvons recommencer une concentration en faisant gaffe à ne pas nous laisser prendre par le thème de la distraction, et ainsi de suite.
Tout c'est pas si karshuri Shindan tening pe du mangbo pa tu truku be sanam ganam sha yorba ta dinan disu yorba kejin changmin kejin si mi shinda sabul khabu chan yorba jesan du mangbo du slabringe jesan 뒤 망부 바 두고야기 사든 남샤남 tining kansa ngashi ki sachil dro tuya tindi chungurwa di ka yonya ke di kane chungurisi situ shinyi tendu tuishin tsuchabal tindi chungurisi.
It is explained in Liberation in Our Hands that certain attainments, spiritual attainments, we call the grounds and the paths, for example, that normally require extremely long periods of time to achieve, eons and eons, have some who rely correctly on the spiritual masters have been achieved within a relatively short period of time in one short human life. This is
Comme ce sont là des émotions particulièrement chez nous, c'est peut-être assez abstrait, donc il suffit de nous dire que certains pratiquants peuvent consacrer énormément de temps, alors que d'autres peuvent aller beaucoup plus vite et peuvent même tout faire dans le laps d'une vie. Pourquoi? C'est parce que eux, ils suivent correctement leur propre maître spirituel. C'est grâce à leur manière exemplaire de suivre correctement leur maître que cela confère une rapidité, une célérité vraiment très spécifique, extraordinaire à leur cheminement spirituel.
제비 인자 디테페 디 중요하다 답변 빼는 빼 레라슈 카르스는 nenju yungzu milarebari. Milarebe shinyi tenzu kanchisi nando wata tipe hal lebarabsita nganzu samlu nganzu chigi musu chiyu shani samlu tani pe simgi nana shung tuya mebe sorabsi nangarabada. Tendi nanga inza tini kong sachil sunju kowa toba nangaraba pena.
Now, if you want to take an example of such a practitioner who has been able to progress very swiftly on this path, thanks to excellent, exceptional reliance upon their spiritual masters, the most obvious example that comes to mind is that of the Venerable Milarepa, Tibetan yogi, whose way of relying upon his spiritual master was actually extraordinary, exceptional, almost difficult to imagine. It was beyond our understanding, but it was thanks to it that he was able to achieve what is called the state of union, in other words, Buddhahood, in his very lifetime.
제빈사 지수밀레 남들다 게이 망볼 주샤베 인산 키란츠 론 하고야지 여러분. 다티 중국 소로든데 말이디. 중 말은 무슨 중어지르바. 무슨 중어지리. 별 중어리 사진들이 중어리 찾아 여러분다니. 먼저 다가 시기야 중 디샤베 소로든데 가이 말이.
Jesu Milarepa's biography is available in many different languages, and it's good therefore to access to it, gain access to it, to read it, and when you read it, though, be careful not to imagine that this is some kind of Oriental fable story that someone has made up. No, it's not anything like that. It's a fact. It is something that occurred in Tibet at a certain period of time. The places that are mentioned in it exist in Tibet and so forth. It should be seen, therefore, as an account, a historical account, and not as some kind of fable.
근데 셰도 그런 좀 민가식 삼을 코스리 배지 좀 엘리멘트 민두 삼산로 근데 삼 코스리 받아 민가식이야 미삼 특히 잡아요 봐 근데 말에 배는 남림 라면 기회 그런 좀 다른 주주도 말 받아 주주도 인자 남림 라면 기회 날 마슈비 파유 벤진다 여기 배 라면 공마 상마 남림 라면 기회 상마 신인 순수 수신도 세벌 때니 남는 또 투길 중시다르바. 그때 신인 순수 수신도 제벌 남중 또 투기를 충분히 인자 나란조야 되는 신 제비는 그런저 패스 사지 때는 나란조 된된 레기래 삼 심리야 가왔던 쪼이기니 연결도 공감 또 선당 줄에
Now, some of you might think, wow, it's always the same example that's given. We always talk about Jason Milarepa. Was he really the only one? And of course, the answer to that is no. In fact, all the spiritual masters of the Lam Rim lineage, for example, you this morning you recited the 6 binary practices and recited the section of the supplications to the masters of the Lam Rim lineage in it. And in fact, every single master of this lineage, be they Indian or Tibetan masters, they all, thanks to their perfect reliance on their spiritual teachers, were able to realize the Lam Rim with them, realize the stages of the path within themselves and achieve the highest of attainments. And we are to think, therefore, of them and think now if they managed to achieve this kind of result, if I follow their example, in their footsteps, I too can achieve the same kind of results. And in this way, you prompt a feeling of delight, but also of enthusiasm for your practice in yourself. And then focus on that.
Tulsi, nisan kawan nyawa teribata, ta kyawanam kebar kurba. Deyan ta tawari, tunda teribata kyawanam ki tukun kari yorisi tu ngaran tsubiki mikiwe le pang kewe le sana kongkong teribata kyawe tukun teriba. Kyawe tukun deyin za ngaran tsu lamano otumbe kewe shinyin tenzu sushin tu chedu, tini kyawanam karishukri ranshinki kienru yore. Ta diri diko devorba.
The second benefit of relying upon our spiritual masters correctly in thought and in deed is that we will please thereby all the conquerors, all the Buddhas, in other words. And how are we to understand this? We need to understand what all the Buddhas wish for us, their sole desire for all sentient beings, including ourselves, is that we should put an end to our suffering and that we should achieve a state of genuine happiness. And knowing that by relying on our spiritual teachers correctly in thought and in deed, we will indeed be then producing the causes for these goals that the Buddhas have for us. They, of course, are very pleased by our correct reliance.
Wata dijel dirwata, dudan tikcho gi mitsubas. Dudan tikcho gi mitsubas ajdoa. Jason du se dudan some kinds of the course sigrata. Jalan to kandis jugu kandis jugu du se
Demo. Demo.
Demon. Muranda kandi inatati dul ta mangbo yor kai du shi yor de so nyumong be du sa de ngan su gyulu yebe nyumong dre du chile yo mare ngan su gyulu yebe nyumong de gindi du re ta de dige ngan zo tawa da tamsi kimbe lam royal gek jeng zo de zorba ji su gek shira shira ji tok mare ji jebi ne ngan zu sem de ta ta debi ne 구교단 도마리 제빈자 계속 하고 지게 전부를 쌓아주
The next benefit in our list of correctly relying on our spiritual teachers is that will be that we become invulnerable to the harm by demons and misleading friends, bad friends. Then the term demons has been translated as such. It's a literal translation of the word du in Tibetan, but in fact there are 4 kinds of so-called demons, and one of which is that of the demon of the kleshas, the disturbing mental states. And this, in fact, is the prime demon for us, in the sense that it is they that prevent us from attaining freedom from cyclic existence. And if they are lacking, then other harmful influences like bad spirits and so forth will have no opening to hurt us in any way imaginable. So, of the different kinds of demons that concerns us, the main demon that is our concern is that of the kleshas, and if we rely correctly on our spiritual masters, then we will, in fact, slowly cease to be affected by these inner demons that are the kleshas.
모두 두스레 리신도 틱베 트로보세아티 간데스 줄고유나 지난주
고호타니
오늘 때든지 되게 제는 먼저 샘디 촐파 인중의 두스레 다티 간제 샘디 자올의 인중의 저봐 디술든 틱베 트로보체브리 만도 틱베 트로보세아든 골을 라주요 그랬는데 요만의 송을地主引起了人民中心，这些资源中的，所以呢，这个因为着在身体在吃药物方面多，我说把每个来了怕，把每个来了家庭的特别做不这不嘞，这啥不做都是这样做。
There's another term in this third benefit, which is that of misleading friends. Literally, it's the friends in sin, or sinful friends, if you like, in Tibetan. But in fact, this expression needs to be explained also, because otherwise we might have funny ideas, like imagining that people or beings who have horns on their heads or whatever. No, it's not a question of that. They are people who draw us away from our spiritual practice, who distract us from it. And there's a quote from Kuntan Jamayan, I believe, who says, these misleading friends are not to be imagined as having horns on their head. They are in fact those who draw us away by making us think about food, drink, clothes, reputation, and so forth, and in other words, turn us from our spiritual practice and encourage us to engage in careless behavior. This, of course, something that the people in the monastery are aware of, but for those newer to the Dharma, we have to explain these terms to avoid misunderstandings or misinterpretations.
Nyeju sen tikbe le rangshuk ngan rogre ka kumare ngan rogre songre.
The next benefit is that we will see our disturbing mental factors, our kleshas, reduce automatically, in a sense, and also our incorrect behavior. And of course, the teachers will explain about the conditions and their drawbacks and so forth, and how to deal with them. And therefore, naturally, if we follow their instructions, these will allow us to reduce these within ourselves, and as a consequence, our bad behavior, incorrect behavior that arises based on these different kleshas will also naturally decrease.
Tous les types d'activités qui risqueraient sinon de déposer en nous des karmas mauvais, des karmas négatifs. Et là, il n'y a même pas besoin de faire un effort supplémentaire pour cela. Ça, c'est un effet automatique, si on suit correctement son maître.
대질되는 사람냠도 탐지 공부도 좋아. 교신이 수신도 땐도되는 사람기 또바 탐지 공부도 좋고 레스다디고 고대버바.
The next benefit is described as being the increase of all our grounds, in other words, spiritual attainments, be they the grounds paths or in spiritual attainments in general. And this is something also easy to understand.
대질되는 천델된데 제발되는 처럼 신도야 교신이 미풍바. 교신이 제거를 숨거래. 교신이 미풍바스도 교신이 매버든데 마임바. 교신이 제거를.
Another benefit of correctly relying on our spiritual teachers is that we will never be deprived of spiritual teachers in our future lives. In other words, in this life, if you correctly rely on your teachers, then that will create the causes of also meeting spiritual teachers again in your future lives.
Tining yesuntu tungi mardati severba. Yesuntu yesuntu kevishinyi tusil tining yesuntu kesi lesa marba. Le masa inzan yesuntu kegmare.
Relying correctly on our teachers also allows us to avoid falling into a lower rebirth, an unfortunate rebirth. And this is also easy to understand, it's logical. The teacher will explain to us what creates the causes for such rebirths and how to avoid them, therefore. And provided, of course, we put those indications into practice, then we will cease to create the causes for such rebirths and therefore avoid them.
가르치도 계위시 배 송추신도 가 주부이나 내가 문도 녀레기 배 내가 문도 대화를 소바던 타도 녀레기 대화를 소바던지 배 배바메 바얀 배주신다 디치도 배주 때문에 슈도 레송거마.
The final benefit is that of effortlessly achieving all temporary and ultimate goals. So again, if we put the instructions our masters give us into practice, then naturally we will be able to achieve, first of all, temporary goals that are rebirth in higher realms, or higher forms in samsara, and also eventually achieve the ultimate goals that are freedom from cyclic existence and a perfect Buddhahood. And this will naturally flow out of our realization of correct reliance on the spiritual masters.
Laman be karishuri. The ditangbo dirba. The niba lama chuzi ningu ki sanji kuvan sanji kuvan nizu niba diri. Debin the chuzu pesilesha. Desha shagmendo.
No. So we have we've seen briefly all the 8 benefits, and in more detail, we've come to the second benefit, the way correctly relying on our spiritual teachers allows us to please all the Buddhas, all conquerors. We'll end the session as the time is up.
Nimbu zudin digin chazan dinan tuuri di sabu sajan zu shida kale khaburi ji tugu mari. Ji tugu mebi inda di zu nani kiran zu simni kare shar dewan duwa. Tangbu dindi si kaan kom kyabni. Tangbu di kaan kom kyab. Di kaan kom kyab du di tel zi pigi yar ram rogu duni dini shindal pachi. Di shindal ko yar rogu man duni kore kaan rana kom kyab zi jadu dindi nang yin duzu yu san kom kya la. Dini otu tu se. Tangbo kunung yabu su ngu shi kom tu su kyab. Kom kya tu kya dang da kya yor di kya. Yabu tsangma kiran tu saba tu kala kabu shirari. Chebin zan su semni kar sharte orib zile. Kan pa kom kyab. Dini kar shukri. Di pe yabu shar suni yang shindar pa kom kyab. Di shar ma suni di kan rana uzu kyab kom kyab tu se. Oda tun tu ske. Dini shukri dili ya. Dini kom kyabi kyawa di pe kar shukri jirsan kya koman toba da kyaba doya sendele zanju lam jirin pe toba kyaba zi gyuli kyabi chido nguwa na. Oda tu sna shu.
Now, for the meditation that you'll do today, this, for those who are more familiar with these meditations, you can perhaps meditate on all 8 of the benefits on relying on correctly on spiritual teachers. So, but for those who are newer to this, this is perhaps much more difficult. So the best for them would be to choose one of these benefits, that perhaps speaks to you more easily, comes to mind more easily, and you can perhaps as continue with that one until you feel really confident of it, in a sense, confident of your understanding of it, and then if that happens, then you can then perhaps move to another of the 8 benefits. But if you don't reach that stage, you can stick with the first one, the one you have chosen to focus on, to meditate on. Now, of course, every time you are to first beginning your session with reviving your motivation, and then, as I explained, doing the visualizations and so forth, and then meditate on the benefits, either covering all 8 if you're used to this meditation, or if not, you choose one and work on it until you feel you have, in a sense, mastered it. And in which case you can move on to another. Otherwise, you can just carry on with that one. And of course, you need to dedicate the merit you've achieved at the end of your session to your attainment of Buddhahood at the best, and if not, then at the very strict minimum, to your attainment of a realization of at least one element of the path.
Oda tu se. Dini tat ngansu nimbu zuti kingri di sabu sarjan zul shukuyu. Dini kiran zu ya so zini zi gom kya kukuyu zan sim busu tobu zi kyo mara. Sim lulu ze kuyang uze, sim ba lulu ze tenze. Dini kale. Dini uzu shivu kyabni ya bai pikya tang uzu kyab. Dini zi kyo mara. Tab kebu zin samdang uri. Dima tang sam korki mara. O dini sinang shu. Dini sanyi mari sanyi riba sangshu zayang riba tusi. Dini kiawa ngu riba nganzu.
So one more thing I would like to add regarding, again, those who are newer to this practice. I would like to warn you about feeling too tense. Of course, I've told you need to meditate on this, and you've made the choice to do so, but it doesn't mean you have to get all uptight about it, nor that you should push yourself too hard, force yourself in a sense. No, you have to be skillful in the way you go about it, skillful with yourself, with your abilities, and so forth, and not overdo.
De manière qui n'est ni trop ni trop peu, en évitant une tension exacerbée empêcherait en fait d'obtenir des résultats.
Now we need to do our dedication for this session.
디타뷰 체이 준준음기름베 가르쇼 우리 체이 슈바딜 때니 지르산지기 템바 개버는 장 수익제부 종가 받침보 가담 산이기 템바를 보시 저도 내가 건도 다시 개를 유린도 내받아 템바 땡신베 땡신이 끼지 담바경고 개위 공부 탐지 긴지 스버침보 지중원로서 땡신자주 스중운주 총금에 베테 배상 저 굳이 샤베 템바땅 되니 양세 조주좀 보시 넘버니기 즈베 되니 땡신이 끼진 담바 지는 개버도 되니 간든치 좀 보시 세상 추진 남니 데스카게 가르쇼레 켄레수 베티 개긴 수부터 땡신이 끼지 담바는 굳이 샤베 템바 근데 굳이 샤베 템바땅 되는 저림 야바 되는 최대 친구 탐색을 투둔 팀장 시주 최주 배워다 되는 직된 함는데 그래서 우리 마주다 내염 소고 민중아 야바도야 등상 내급들 내염 노르만 보시 우저 알바 대소도 미상면 쌤디 마때지 흘려서 차야 지금 제도 봐 모난다 모나제 텐지제 온 모나로나 슈기.
So, Mother, I ask you now to dedicate the merit that you have, that we have created today by teaching and listening to the Dharma. First, to the maintenance, the preservation and maintenance and spread of the Buddha Dharma in general, and especially to the teachings of Lord Tsongkhapa, Jey Rinpoche. Also, please dedicate it to the long life of all the spiritual masters who uphold these teachings, starting with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, also including the 2 reincarnations of his personal tutors, and also, for example, the Ganden Chiba, the head of the Gelugpa school, the future Ganden Chibas, the Chase Chuje, Janze Chuje, also all the other teachers who contribute to the maintenance and preservation of the Buddha Dharma, and I also pray that the monasteries that uphold the Buddha's teaching and uphold the Vinaya, that may continue to do so perfectly and pass on the Dharma from generation to generation. Please pray also that thanks to this good karma that we've created, that all the conflicts and wars in the world may cease, that all diseases and pandemics and so forth may end quickly, and that all sentient beings may find peace and may meet the Dharma and practice it and find inner peace thereby.
Les choses aillent en s'améliorant, en s'apaisant, comment nos mérites pour toutes ces agitations actuelles, que ce soit les catastrophes naturelles et pas moins naturelles, telles que les conflits, les guerres, et ainsi de suite. Et donc, disons, nos mérites pour que ainsi tous les êtres qui sont à connaître la paix et le bonheur sont plus d'agitation et de trouble.
모두 든지임자 투치 다기 진이 사베 교와 엔단 로와 군라 강베 야버지 줄로산 장와이 덴베 닝부른도 세지 쇼 취셰 빨레 중 교와 다기 강사와 되는지됨 得谢谢肉头马熊。
西北给周姐妹到长日上临时你的讲话的三个星度没太入外。若跟南大新来就把说一当过路热那么的了干的呀。
Ale, ti yomar ba, rimbe mi yomar. Re. Shuwa ta chesan ti shukute kachu masung. Taki chinyi sakwe kyawan ti ten, lapsa sunge, chentri sha. Yang be surchi.
Yes, Roger. Thanks. Para ver, Roger.
Chimona pesa sha.
Insere. Insere.
Suri.
Ti chamola insere.
Ah,
Chamola suyorbe.
mas
So
takin tashina duwa. Takin du. Ti pen da. Ya, tuchi. Ya, nusan chuma kale kama suma. Komen da.
no.
Tuchi. Ya ustaz. Aleke. Tuchi sanyi jao. Sanyi. Tuchi.